Kyle, thank you so much for making time out of your incredibly busy schedule to be here with us today. We have been friends for, I think, over 5 years already, and I finally get to have you here. So thank you so much. First, can you tell us a little bit about your story and how you got here?
Yeah, Stephanie, thank you. It's such an honor to be on the podcast. I've watched you build this thing, and you have such a great fan base, and you give so much great value, and that's the key, right? You're always thinking, how can I help the listener? And that's my goal today as well, to support that intention. Yeah, I grew up in a small town, never went to college. I'm not the guy you would think of as Jim Rohn's 18-year business partner. In fact, I used to do drugs, and it was worse than I make it sound, but had a significant emotional experience at age 19, totally changed my life. And by age, I started my first little entrepreneurial business. It was a service station back in the day, ended up building it, 10 employees, open 24/7. So that entrepreneurial spirit was there. And then at age 26, I moved to Dallas, the big city. And that was a big move for me. I'd grown up in this small town, had never ventured outside of that. And through some very serendipitous just experiences, I ended up going to a seminar. And at that seminar, they were looking to hire sales reps. And so it was a personal development seminar. I don't know, I was desperate. I was in that place. Sometimes we're in that bubble where we hear something that's so outside the comfort zone and something I had no skill at. And what that entailed when I went to work for the seminar company was making 100 cold calls a day to go speak for a company like a real estate office or insurance company or car dealership. So not a friendly audience necessarily, to go in and share how to be successful on these different points and then sell tickets to a seminar. So it was a tough gig. And I even thinking about public speaking was terrifying, doing 100 cold calls. But I was in this bubble, and it was a bit of a God thing, and ended up doing that, became the top sales rep, eventually went out on my own and started doing my own events. And I would go into a new city every 90 days, Chicago, Washington, D.C., Atlanta, Los Angeles, and put on these big events. And I would hire Jim Rohn and Brian Tracy or Og Mandino, and we would get 2,000, 2,500 people. Life was great. I was doing something most of the people weren't willing to do, like the price we paid was very disciplined, very focused, it just took a lot of moving pieces. And it took me about 5 years to get there. I don't want to act like this happened overnight. Actually 4 years. So from 89 to now 1993, we're really one of the top promoters in the country. And Jim Rohn came to me. And for those that don't know who Jim Rohn, that's the guy Tony Robbins calls his mentor and so many others. And Jim was my favorite speaker. And he said, Kyle, my partner owes me $500,000 for this next event. Can you just pay me directly? Because I always went through Jim's partner. I said, yes. And he said, I'll just take it off the tab. And that next event at the end, I met with Jim and I said, Jim, I would love the opportunity to have an exclusive to work with you. And that sounded a lot better to me than it did to him. I think he was very gun shy. He had a lot of bad experiences. So I made him an offer he couldn't refuse. I said, listen, I'll pay for everything. It'll be my company. I'll pay you off the top. So it doesn't matter if I'm incompetent. I'm going to pay you off the top versus a partnership on events that might or might not make money. And we shook hands. It was a handshake deal. And so for 10 years, we had that handshake. And that first year, I took it from 20 speaking dates to 110. I tripled his speaking fee and started creating some products. And one of them became a viral product that we sold 6 million of. And we're off to the races. And then I figured out, okay, I'm taking Jim to all these new companies. And I was building, I had a small team, maybe 3, 4 people helping me with this. And I thought, I could also take Brian Tracy, who I used to represent, at my events. And I met Mark Victor Hansen, who I later did Chicken Soup for the Entrepreneur Soul with. And I met Les Brown and Dennis Waitley. And so I started another company called YourSuccessStore. And then I would take all those same speakers I just mentioned into the companies I had Jim speaking at. and we had a great run. And then in 2000, the internet came, or 1999, I guess is when I started my first e-zine back in the day. Newsletter, e-zines are popular, emails are popular now, but I was doing it pretty early on, 1999. And we built a million plus list, and ended up selling all my companies in 2007, and retired for 7 years. And now I'm doing kind of reinventing myself and doing things I really enjoy. And but yeah, that's my background story.
I think that's such a wonderful story, especially coming from the fact that you provided value to Jim Rohn first before a partnership showed up, which is what you have to do, going to somebody like him. So he saw that you performed, and then your offer was a fantastic offer, right? That he could not refuse, to pay him off the top, no matter what happens. So I think that goes to show how we need to provide value if we need help from somebody else, if you're getting started in real estate in our case, and you
Let
would
me
like to
play
have
off
some
that.
mentors. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, let me play off that. It's like when we see people we want to work with that are more successful than us, we have to find the thing we can help them solve, that we can really bring a skill. A lot of people come, hey, Kyle, how can I help you? Well, they really can't. It's not like, and it would take me more time to have them help me
Yeah.
than they're gonna. But if there's a true need that they can solve, and if they're smart, they'll just go do it. And I've had some people along the way just go do it for me. It's like, okay, they made this easy. They made it seamless. And so I'm glad you picked up on that, because that is a big mistake. And I'm surrounded by that in my world. People want to be introduced to Brian Tracy or Les Brown or Mark
Yeah.
Victor Hansen, and it just doesn't work that way. They have people paying them tens of thousands of dollars to be part of their programs. So, that's where they've got to go start, is go become part of their programs. Let them see you on the front row of every event they do. And that's really what happened with me. I was doing these big events, and I had people we both would know, big speakers, that would show up at my events. They're not just trying to get me to promote them or sell their product. When I built the million plus list, I mean, they're showing up at my events too, right? They're fully participating, front and center.
Incredible. I would love to touch on, because you have been a marketer for so long, and you have had 2,000 plus people show up to your events, which is so hard to do, coming from my own experience. And you always seem so composed about it. You never seem stressed out about your masterminds or your books or anything that you have. I've never seen you stressed in my life, but would love to learn, for our audience, what are some ways that real estate operators and syndicators could market themselves in today's world with all the technology and, now even ChatGPT coming along? Any thoughts there?
Yeah, I do have some thoughts. And by the way, today's version of Kyle, the previous version of Kyle was a very type A seminar promoter. And I think at my last LA Inner Circle, Rory Smooth was there. And
Yeah.
Rory was at my 2004 event. And you can ask people like Rory and Ron White, who I'm doing a memory and marketing event, started working with Ron in 2002. Mark Victor Hansen, 94 on, they'll tell you the very type A, super stressed. And I have kind of gone back and re-engineered and figured out why, and that's a whole other story in itself. But yeah, I sold my companies. I retired for 7 years, and I decided in 2013, after a ski trip with a couple of guys in my world, John Assaraf, Darren Hardy, and a few others, that they had the San Diego Mastermind, and they said, you should go start your own in Dallas. And I thought, I sold my million plus list. I don't have any employees anymore. I don't have a team. I don't have any intellectual property. I mean, I used to show up dozens and dozens of top 10 on Google for all the speakers, all the products. I didn't have anything. I mean, anyone was ahead of me because they had even a blog. Everyone was ahead of me because I was starting at zero. But I did have relationships, which are huge. was one phone call away, and I also had the knowledge and also had the money too, right? So I wasn't having to go create something out of desperation. I could build it the right way, which is important. So I've been in this place. So the very question you're asking, I had to put myself out there. And so my first observation was social media. You know, I'm a big believer. It's a thing I started at 93. It's called the wheel. And the wheel, you're the hub, and each thing you do is a spoke. And the big question is, how do you get people on the wheel and then take them around? And the thing a lot of people leave out is the getting them on the wheel part. And I thought, you know, social media has a couple of powerful components. First of all, anyone in the world can find you.
Yeah.
And you can reach anyone else in the world. And for the most part, it's free. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to have to get in the social media game. I didn't want to. I was diminishing my story. I was living a very almost private life. I would even do a Jim Rohn post to not even mention he was my 18-year business partner. And I owned Jim Rohn International, the company that I'd sold. So I was really diminishing my story. And I have a lot of people, you've met many of them at the inner circle, that are highly successful, but they don't like social media. And one of the things we had to talk about was, how much influence do you want to have? And if you don't want to have any influence, just go disappear and hope people will find you. But depending on your desire to have an influence in other people's lives, you have to put yourself out there. That's just undeniable. There are a few exceptions, but for the most part, we have to be willing to put ourselves out there. And I think it's really our ego that doesn't want to be judged. It's not our ego that puts ourselves out there. It's our ego that doesn't want someone not to like our post or to think we're being arrogant. And I had to be content to say, some people are going to judge me. They're going to say, oh, I'm bragging or I'm whatever.
Yeah.
Versus the other people that say, Kyle, I've been following you. You're making a difference in my life. In 2017, I'm at a bar in New Orleans watching a football game, and there's a guy there that's this huge bodybuilder guy who worked on an oil rig. And we're, a couple of hours, we're drinking beer. I see him again a couple of days later at the same bar. We're watching another game. So we became Instagram friends. He messaged me a couple of months ago and said, Kyle, I can't tell you the influence. I want to learn more about your inner circle. I can't afford it. I'm not in the business world. And I'm like, I'm doing this thing called memory marketing in February. That might be perfect for you to come to. It doesn't cost a lot of money. We hang out for a couple of days. He was the first guy that signed up.
Aw.
How did that happen, Stephanie? Because we became friends on Instagram.
Yeah.
He follows me. Now, how many times did he reply over 6 years? Hardly ever. But he was watching. People are watching. So a lot of times when it's crickets, we think no one's paying attention. And what we don't realize, we're putting ourselves out there, we're talking about a deal. And what we don't realize, and I learned this when I had the huge email list, people are going through maybe a divorce. People are going through maybe, putting their kids through college so that they don't have money. Maybe someone's got a serious health issue. Maybe their parents are going through things and they're having to take care of them. Maybe they bought the very thing you're selling a week before or a month before. There's 50 reasons why they're not ready for your deal, but it doesn't mean they're not paying attention. And so back to the wheel, my thing is, if I can get them on the wheel, that's not a funnel. Funnels have agendas. I'm not talking funnels. I'm not talking selling. Everything I've ever taught is about attracting. It's about fishing versus hunting. And, you mentioned the word tactics, and I've always talked about marketing is principles and tactics, and tactics change all the time. You're so right. The tactics to fill a room in 93 changed to, 2004, that changed to 2010, that changed to 2016 when I did the Brian Tracy 3-day event, that changed today. But the principles haven't changed at all. And one of the core principles is build a relationship with people, build trust. Well, to do that, you have to have a way to talk to them. And social media is the first step. Podcasts are great for that as well. And then from there, getting people onto an email list that you have a little bit more control to relate. The second thing I'll say about that, I know I gave you a really long, lengthy answer, but the second part is equally important, is you got to show up where the people are. I'm a big proponent of of events showing up where other, especially specific type of events that are industry related, that your avatar will be there. So you
Yeah.
got to show up sometimes. So whether it's groups or events, or that can be online, that can be in person. But again, anywhere I go, there is an intention. If I meet my avatar, is there something of value I can bring to them in the way of like some resources? So I have a bunch of free resources, and I say, listen, hey Stephanie, and again, that's how we became friends. And you got on my email list, and we
Yeah.
followed each other on social media. We met at an event,
Yeah.
and that's I've done that thousands of times. But I'm not going to just try and hard sell them. It's the will. They go on the will. You put it out there. There's no agenda. When they're ready, this is huge. When the customer's ready, that's when it happens. So not having who, it's not about who. It's who. It's when the right person is ready, and taking the agenda out. But first, you got to get them on that. Social media is the first step, or that email list.
Yeah. And regarding the events, I think face-to-face is huge. If we had only
Yes.
met via Zoom calls, and if we had kept a friendship over Zoom calls, it would absolutely never have been the same as meeting in person. And the many times we met in person and developed a more strong friendship. And so definitely
Yes.
face-to-face.
Which means you got to show up, and it's
Yeah.
always worth it. So you're going to learn something, but you're also going to meet other people, and yeah, it's huge as far as building a list and every other thing. The thing most people don't do though is they don't establish. Again, Instagram's easy for me. Sometimes it's Facebook for people. That's always
Hmm.
kind of my go-to. I'm not going to just now. Again, if they want my free resources, I'll ask for their email, but
Yeah.
just finding some way. And I think LinkedIn's a big tool, that's a preference for a lot of people in the real estate investing world is LinkedIn. But whatever it is, establish that connection, and then you can start building a relationship.
Yeah. Thank you. And you also do have a course as a side note, but not necessarily on the wheel. I'm actually
Mhm.
going through it right now.
Mhm.
So that is very helpful, but you got to do the exercises. You got to pause, write what you're telling people to do, and move on to the next module. Otherwise, you're just learning for the sake of learning. And if you're not implementing or doing the homework, it's not going to go anywhere. Um, let's move
And
on. Oh, go ahead.
what I love about that is I think we do spend way too much time learning stuff we don't need to learn. And I think you were
Yeah.
kind of it's like we really, and that's the value of a coach, or value of a group, or a value of like your podcast, where you have different topics. And if people can focus, like for me, I was owned a gas station, and from there I ended up uh, cold calling, then learning to do presentations, learning to sell, get referrals, then learning to put on events, and learning to create products, and then publish books, and build an email list, and become uh, a leader of, ended up with 20 employees, the agent for speakers. Everything was very specific that I had to learn. And so there's so much I don't know. But what I had to learn is where I put all my focus, all my energy. What is the problem in front of me? And I think uh, having put on a lot of events, there are a lot of people that just love to learn, and they confuse learning with doing. And so I love that you made that reference of, it's not just hearing it, it's actually figuring out what you need to do next, and then focusing on that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thanks for elaborating on that. You also have a mastermind, and yeah, I have been to many of your masterminds, and I'm part of another mastermind in self-storage space. I think the ROI on these masterminds are, for me, 20x so far, 20 times minimum. So I think they are incredibly powerful. And right now we're in January, so people are, thinking still about their goals. Some of them, there's still time to, change your path for the year and narrow down on your goals. Let's talk about the benefits of Mastermind. You've been doing this for many years. What have you seen come out of them, of your masterminds?
Yeah,
Yeah, you've seen it all. So let's touch
it's
on some of them.
definitely the favorite thing I do. I really have my life pretty simple. I do three things, and all three I love. I do them by choice, and I love it. I actually started it in 2015 based on Darren and John saying you should start your own, because I'm like, I love what you guys are doing, but I was retired. They said, go start your own. And when I started it, I really did have the intention, and it's not changed 9 years later, is who would I want to spend time with? And, can they make me better? How can I help them? But also, how can they help me? So my mastermind's different than a lot I see, in the sense that, first of all, it's not about me. It's about the group of people in the room. So I am a promoter at heart. I don't have a desire to be a speaker. Speaking's a bit uncomfortable for me. And it's just not my gift. I know my gift. I'm a marketer, promoter. I love talent. I love to see people that are win-win focused. I actually highly dislike a lot of the agendas I see out there, a lot of the manipulation, a lot of selling the dream, whether it's in the real estate world or in my marketing world. So I want authentic people. But when you have great people like Colonel Tim Cole and Ron White and, Nui Scruggs and all these amazing people, that each have their own gift. So mine's a little bit different. I did it for me. I wanted really high quality people. That doesn't mean the most successful people per se. That's not a litmus test for me. A litmus test for me is, are they authentic? Can I trust them? Are they win-win focused? I have had people come in that don't get invited back, because they had an agenda. They're there to do all the things I have a little bit of a disdain for. People kind of they come in and they think, okay, this is my tribe. These are amazing people, and we have it all. We have fitness, we have investors, we have entrepreneurs, we have people with 500 employees. I've got a single mom that has a hair salon too, and she is a great fit as well. So my goal is, who can it help, and are they going to be a good fit? And that doesn't mean they have to come in as a contributor. A lot of people want to be contributors. A lot of people want to just soak it in. I have, like I said, Nui Scruggs, he's a 12-time Emmy-winning sportscaster. He goes hides in the back. He said, I am here to recharge my battery. I'm not here to be the guy that's up teaching. But no, we have brilliant tax attorneys. We have brilliant lawyers. Just amazing people. When I started it, I intentionally started it in Dallas and Los Angeles. I live in Dallas. I love California. And COVID, I then added Philly because I have a bunch of East Coast people. COVID had us stop LA and Philly, but I'm back in LA now, and I love SoCal. And I'm going to actually do one in Philly again here in the spring. And but no, we have live events. And not everyone can make all the live events. I do about 14 days total, and that includes a lot of 2 days. So I'm calling that 2 days when it's a 2-day event. But we also have a Facebook group and a membership site, and with a lot of content. And then we do monthly master classes where I've had Brian Tracy and Mark Victor Hansen and Jeffrey Gittimer, and I'm calling in favors all the time. And I've also have a monthly marketing call where I have two partners, Paul and Sharia, who are more the tactical side of marketing. I'm the principal base, but they're the tactical. And so we'll talk SEO and social media and websites and all kinds. And we do that once a month. And we have Q&A. So what's really cool to me is to have Bill Cullen and Def Leppard, who's actually spent the whole day with us at an in-person mastermind. But he's been on 3 of our virtual masterminds. And he'll stick around and take questions, So I've had who Dugan Kelly is. So Dugan's like, the biggest Def Leppard fan. Who would have dreamed that? Or Anna Kelly, biggest Def Leppard fan. And and Alan Sturt's a huge Def Leppard fan. And so you have these people that are these massively successful people that are also fans, and they get to ask whatever they want. Same thing for Brian Tracy. And no, it's a special group. At the same time, I'm not trying to build. It's not. It is a business model, but it's not. Like people said, let's go do this in Florida. Let's do this in Nashville. Let's do this in Chicago. I'm like, I'm not interested. We have an amazing group. My job is to make sure that Tim Cole wants to keep showing up.
Right.
I have some members that are kind of my true north on making sure we're doing something kind of special. And
Sure.
so I think having trusted people, having people that a lot happens. There's a lot of teardrops that happen at these, a lot of vulnerability. People are going through things. So although it's a business mastermind, it's people are going through stuff, and we create that space as well.
Everyone is going through something, either personal or
They
in
are.
business or both.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, and we have a meditation where I have a Dallas group, I have an LA group. They're very different environments, but we all come together, and that's we being judgmental doesn't serve us well for the most part. Being open, realizing we can learn from everyone. One of my favorite Jim Rohn quotes was, "Be a student, not a follower. Make sure everything you do is the product of your own conclusion." Bottom line is we can learn from everyone. You don't have to agree with everyone, but someone can have this thing, find the one or two things that make sense to you, but make sure it's the product of your own conclusion. And so like we have people that show up and they're open, but then they're going to make the final choice, which is what you want people to do.
So what have you seen come out of your mastermind in terms of partnerships, growth, becoming a thought leader in their industry? You have seen it all. I would love for you to share that.
Well, I'm thinking of Mark and Tamil Kinney ended up starting that I personally coached them. They were part of my group for a couple of years. Tom Burns, who wrote Why Doctors Don't Get Rich. Kiyosaki signed the forward of his book. Tom's been a member since 2017. I coached Tom for 3 years.
And
He's got his
raised
own
how
mastermind.
much again? And he raised how much again?
A lot, 700 million. Michael Manthe, been a member for like 5 years, but Michael, I personally coached, and he's built this incredible community where they're doing huge events. And I've probably had at least a dozen masterminds. Anna Kelly, of people that have been part of mine that I coached that went on to create their own masterminds. Marco Santarelli, who's an amazing guy, who he's part of the LA group. But no, we've had a lot of success, and there has been a lot of business that happens inside the group, but it has to happen authentically. That's the key. When people, back to the showing up, if you show up and there's a common connection or a common relationship, amazing things happen. And again, I do have more entrepreneurs and professionals than I have investors. We probably have 25% investors, but a lot of my entrepreneurs, and I'm thinking of like Robert Crockett, Adam Butorf, these big entrepreneurs have now invested a lot, with the investors. So there's all kinds of connections happening. I think tax stuff has been one of the biggest things because Mike Pine's a member, and Mike, I never do an event where if I can have him, he doesn't come speak and do Q&A, and he's just one of the best. And I see Simon Bailey messaging me here. Simon's a 12 best-selling book author that gets 60,000 to speak. He's been a member for 3 years. He'll come and speak and do master classes. We always do master classes at each event. So all the people I'm talking about will hold a master class. Claire Hoover on self-storage, or whoever it is, right? So just a lot of talent.
Absolutely. And it's not only showing up, it's also following up, building that relationship, having the people there see who you are and what you stand for, your character. those are all really important things. You know, I had a guy the other day reach out to me, and I don't remember even meeting him, and he's like, how can we partner up? And I'm like, I don't even know who you are. I don't know what you stand for. I have never seen you in action. I know you need to build a relationship first. So it's the
And
power
I
of
think
showing up.
yeah,
Yeah.
the after parties where a lot of that happens, right? So
Oh
there's
yeah.
always a reception. If it's at my house, I'm eventually kicking people out. You know, there comes a time it's like, y'all need to leave.
So
But you know, like in LA, we'll stay till we close the place down.
yeah.
And so yeah, the after party is always valuable as well. And that's where a lot of that happens. And
Yeah.
I've been amazed, Stephanie, because when I started this, yeah, in the beginning, a lot of, and still today, a lot of people sign up because of me, right? They're either Jim Rohn fans or, you know, I coach Darren Hardy and Robin Sharma. They're huge Darren Hardy fans or Brian Tracy fans, but they stay because of the people. They might come in for me. And I've sat back and watched, and just everyone is connecting with someone,
Yeah.
right? It's amazing how there seems to be the right fit for everyone there. And it can be, you know, we have relationship experts. We have experts on every level, like the books, like the book you were in. There's this expertise across the line, and it's seen. And again, the master classes help expose that, right? Because they'll talk about going through a divorce or health issues or cancer or tax, you know, how to save on your taxes with investing. And people will then pick the one that's the biggest need for them, right?
Yeah.
And then that relationship will carry on. I think you met Stormy Hill, right? Who's this
Hmm.
amazing doctor, psychologist, who has all kinds of things, and she'll hold hers. And then people, it's amazing how much good stuff really does happen. And that's why I feel so enthused about it, you know. And I don't want to screw it up, and it's delicate, you know. So it's one of those things.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot that goes into making sure it's a phenomenal event for people. 100%. Wow, this has been wonderful, Kyle. I'm so glad that, you know, I'm part of your circle, and it's been such a joy and a pleasure, and like I've learned so much, and I really appreciate you making the time. How can our listeners get in touch with you?
Yeah, well, thank you, Stephanie. This has been an honor for me, and I've loved watching what you've been doing. Like it's incredible what you have built and the things you've done, and just stepping out and taking action. And I know you've built a very loyal following because you want to bring value. So I do have a free gift if anyone wants it. This is a book I did a few years back, and I said a bunch of these people's names: John Assaraf, Brian Tracy, Darren Hardy, Les Brown, Mark Victor Hansen of Chicken Soup, Phil Collin of Def Leppard, uh, Seth Mosley, Tim Cole, many others. And this is a book I did called Success Habits of Superachievers, and it came from my podcast. But I have 80 authors that tell their story, and I give it away for free, the digital version, if they'll send an email to Kyle at kylewilson.com. Just put success habits, but also mention they heard about it on your podcast. And also tell me, you know, how long you've been following Stephanie. And also, if you're a Jim Rohn fan or a Darren Hardy fan or whatever it may be, or a couple of things you got from this podcast, I respond to every one of these. I'm not sending you to a website. You're going to email me personally. I do respond to every one of these because, again, if someone cares enough, if this means something, maybe you are a Darren Hardy fan, maybe Jim Rohn changed your life. I want to know about it. I'll reply. And I'll send this and a bunch of other things. And, you know, it was such an honor to have you in this book, this most recent book, right? That we
Yeah.
had Dennis Waitley and Chris Gronkowski of Shark Tank and NFL Days and multiple others, Ron White, Seth Mosley. Uh, and if you guys don't have this, are you giving this away, Stephanie, to
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
folks?
Yeah.
Send you an email or website or whatever it may be. But it's a powerful book, and I tell my story in this too. Make sure and reach out to Stephanie about that.
Yeah, all of your books are phenomenal and such a great experience. Kyle, thank you so much for being here today. I really, really, really appreciate you making the time.
Stephanie, you're the best. Thank you so much.
You
And I'll
are.
see you in LA, hopefully here soon.
Yes, looking forward to it.
Okay, thank you.